Tomorrow it will be the day that Trump gets into the office and the altcoin party should begin. In this video, we're going to discuss which altcoins are likely going to move as we are in a year of upwards movements. Let's get started. Hey, as you know, I'm a huge football fan and our sponsor OKX is currently running a promotion with Manchester City. If you create a new account and you deposit €1,000 and you keep it on there for 7 days, you get one of those shirts for free at your home. And on top of that, you might be able to win a 2-person VIP all-paid experience to go to Manchester City Chelsea. Make sure to get that account and maybe we'll see each other at the Manchester City game. We all know what happened in the past year. We had a year where both the ETF started for Bitcoin and Ethereum. We had a year of suffering on the altcoin markets with the yields being super high and the dollar still being strong and not pushing forward risk on investments. And we had Trump getting into the Bitcoin conference where he was openly speaking what he wanted to do in the case of making it more transparent and easier to actually innovate and build something in crypto. And additionally, he wants to build his own Bitcoin strategic reserve if he was going to be elected as the president. And we all know that he won. And tomorrow he's going to be in the office. It's going to be the first week of him being there. And that's going to have some very big impacts on the markets, which of course the biggest one is that is there going to be a strategic reserve for Bitcoin? We all don't know that. Jerome Powell has been openly saying that he couldn't actually accept a strategic reserve for Bitcoin because it's just not possible. But we all know Trump, and Trump is doing Trump things. So I wouldn't be surprised that we're actually going to get it. But we've seen a very volatile week when it comes to the price action of Bitcoin. Reminder, earlier this week, we hit $88,000 and within 48 hours, the price of Bitcoin ran back to above 100,000, which was due to some negative momentum at the start, which quickly changed through some important data points that came out. The first topic was that the inflation remained relatively high, and the fact that that is the case was pushing up the yields even more. But during the week, we had CPI and PPI coming out, which both were lower than expected. More positive, as a lower inflation is a result for the Fed to potentially do some more rate cuts. And that caused a momentum shift in the yields. It caused a momentum shift in the dollar. The dollar-euro almost got towards parity, which is a very strong signal for the dollar, but not for the other currencies, and also not for other investments. So that changed, and along the week, we also saw that the Fed has stated that there is a very likely case of another 3 to 4 rate cuts to take place in 2025. At least one of the commissioners of the Fed has stated that. So that cocktail has brought down the yield substantially and has shown the reversal or the momentum in the altcoins that have been taking place, through which it's very likely to expect that this is going to continue. So the question we should ask is, what can we expect from Trump being in the office? And the first thing is a weaker dollar. As you can see, the previous first 1.5 years that he came into the office, we saw the dollar collapse. He wants to have a weaker dollar. He wants to have lower yields so he can actually stabilize the economy. So it's expected that the dollar becomes weaker. It's expected that the yields are going to fall. And there's also a case that we're going to have a lower yield on the government bonds and QE to start, as there's a very likely case that we're going to have a recession, and that needs to be fueled through QE. So that is on the macro side. And on the crypto side, we've got progressive crypto regulations coming in, triggering another big influx in the markets from the US and outside of the US. I think it's going to be the big .com bubble type of crypto bubble that we're going to be seeing. And I think that there are particularly some specific cryptocurrencies that are going to do well. which we're going to be discussing in the next chapter. So before we're continuing, the first thing we need to look at is what do we see on a macroeconomic perspective before I'm going to discuss the altcoins, which I think will do well. As you can see, I've got a weekly candle of the 10-year yields. And this is important because at this point in time, in September, we had the 2 rate cuts, or at least we had 1 rate cut of 50 bips taking place. And as a result, normally you would see that the yields continue to fall because that is the impact that you usually get. However, I discussed this in the previous update, 1928, 1998, we've seen a inverse taking place where the yields continued to rally instead of going down after the Fed announced those rate cuts. And we see the exact same. So we had this rally from 3.6% to 4.8% on the yield markets or on the treasuries. And if you're holding treasury notes, you have been completely screwed over the past period. And I think that euphoria of capitulation, or whatever you would call it, is currently at the end of its stage, as we have a massive weekly candle, and I'll start to zoom in a little bit here. We have a massive weekly candle where we had this run up to 4.8%, and we dropped 20 bips in just 2 days, triggering the strength in the altcoin market. And the same can be seen on the 2-year yields, where we also took the liquidity and started to move downwards again. And additionally, we can see that the dollar is just consolidating and showing some weakness. But primarily, the yields reversing and likely going to be in a downtrend is the first signal that also very likely the dollar is going to fall, and that's going to trigger the actual bull market that we want to see. And as you can see, the correlation between each Bitcoin and the yields is super heavy. So in that case, the moment that the yields start to fall, we are likely going to see more strength coming in from all those altcoins, especially if you look at the Bitcoin dominance. It starts to make its first slight drop already. It's still just a small move, but there's a lot more to come. And there are 3 categories which we expect to do well. The first category is the US SEC coins, which, as you look at this chart, it is XRP. And I'm just going to zoom back towards 2017. I think we are close to a new all-time high on that one, particularly in this case, as we have been seeing some tremendous moves take place. I can't find it, it's fine. But we are seeing some tremendous moves, and I stated that once something goes super volatile, you need to look at higher time frame levels to get yourself into a new position. And XRP made a correction from $2.70 all the way towards $1.90, has been stuck in a range and broke out again in the upwards momentum here, through which it almost made a new all-time high. It's currently above $3. And it's very likely that all those SEC coins continue to do well. And what do I mean by SEC coins? The ones that have been stated as securities back in 2022, where XRP, Matic, Algo, and more of those coins were classified as securities that are now reversing back up as they are likely not classified as securities. And XRP is one of them that is currently showing its momentum. But if you look at some smaller caps, for instance, Algo, it has seen its first run, has seen a similarly heavy correction taking place, and bounced back up from there and starts its next leg upwards. And if you zoom out a little bit more on those coins, then you're quite sure that the upwards momentum has just started. So there's a lot more to come on all these groups, or on this particular group of coins. So I think that this will do really well. The second category is the group of coins that our friend has in his own World Liberty Fund, which is on-chain, is public. As we can see, the one up here is Chainlink, the other one is Aave, and the other one is ETH. And I'll get to ETH in a little bit. But Aave, Chainlink, and ETH have been bought by World Liberty Finance. And it's expected that Chainlink will continue to do well alongside Aave based on this news-related item. And if you look at this coin or this group of coins in particular, you can see that we are finally starting a bull cycle in Chainlink itself. It is starting to make higher highs, higher lows, and it's expected that in the coming 6 months, we are finally going to have that actual upwards momentum taking place on the markets. So this is the second group that you need to watch. And I think watching what the World Liberty Finance is going to do is a key trigger to anticipate on movements in the markets. And in that regard, I discussed ETH with you. And ETH is also being pushed through a weak dollar and lower yields, but also due to the fact that DeFi is going to wake up even more the moment that there is a better understanding of regulations and the moment that there is going to be the macro climate where DeFi on ETH becomes more interesting. And that's also the case why in the previous week we see more strength coming in from ETH ecosystem plays rather than ETH itself. So we see more strength coming in from optimism. We see more strength coming in from DeFi in terms of Compound and Aave. And I think that that is going to be the play that, especially at the current market cycle low on the Bitcoin valuations, this is the moment to go full gas into risk and to add some more on your positions. Thank you very much for watching to this update. Next Tuesday, we're going to have a new podcast episode. Next Thursday and next Sunday, we're going to dive a little bit more into what's happening on the markets, as I think it's going to be a good period. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you again next week. Ciao.